guess so, let's start with the single mom and like a single dad perspective, and like why that's a different
Okay.
why people should approach that differently in relationships.
Sure. How many kids do you have?
2.
Okay. And they're in elementary school, or are they high
Yep.
schoolers, or?
Elementary and middle.
Okay. And they came from a marriage, or
Yep.
same father?
Nope.
So 2 different fathers.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess the question you're asking is, why is that a red flag, if I understood it correctly?
Yeah, why is that a red flag? And then why is it okay for you? Like, I mean, do you look at yourself the same way that you look at it as a single mother if you're a single father?
No. Do you see men and women as the same? Do you see men and women as equal?
In some ways, I
Maybe let's
mean,
start with that. So in what ways do you see men and women as different?
I mean, I think that they should bring the same things to the table. You know, I want somebody who is confident, successful, great at communicating. Like those, everything should be reciprocated in a relationship when it comes to
No,
your
no,
emotional
no. I guess the
capacity.
question is do you see differences between men and women? Because I mean, you're kind of
Yes, like,
describing the kind of guy that you want to date.
oh, yeah, but I mean, biologically, yes.
Okay. Okay. So biologically, I guess we can start with that, because you know that women birth the children, which men don't do.
Hmm.
So that does a number on a person's body, doesn't it?
Sure.
So there's one difference between men and women. So to kind of dive down the rabbit hole of like the single mom, we'll get into friendships with friends and men and female friends and the tattoos a little bit as well too. But there are differences between men and women. And when it's convenient, what I'll often hear is, well, if you say that men should probably stay away from single moms, but you're a single dad with a kid, how is that any different? Right? Like, why do you get a pass on that? And the truth of the matter is that I don't think guys really do get a pass on that. I think guys get criticized. Oh, dogs found something interesting outside. A squirrel, maybe. So guys don't necessarily get a pass, in that regard, because women tend to disqualify men pretty rapidly for a number of reasons, and one of them, can be that they've already got a child. But I guess the easiest way for me to enlighten the ladies that are watching and the ones on the panel also is that when a woman's got kids in tow from a prior relationship, and in your case, you've got 2 different kids from 2 different fathers, that brings extra levels of complexity into a man's life that he wouldn't necessarily deal with if she didn't have kids. For example, you've got 2 baby daddies. You're going to have 2 baby daddy drama. You're going to be dealing with that, and I'm going to have to hear about that. I'm also going to put myself in a position where I essentially cuckold myself, where I am now in a place where I have responsibility to a child that isn't mine, doesn't have my last name, doesn't have my DNA. There's no benefit to me, but I don't have, generally speaking, any authority over that child. And what men typically find, which is a different experience that women don't usually understand until they're a sister to a guy that's dating a single mom, or a mother to a son that's dating a single mom, but they don't usually see this. But the difference is that women want the authority off over your kid, but they don't want the responsibility to it. Whereas the other way around, guys tend to find themselves in a position where they have the responsibility. They're paying for meals. We got to go to Chuck E. Cheese. Rich is paying the bill. We're going to go skiing. Rich, cuts the check. All this sort of stuff is coming off my end, but I don't have any authority over those kids, because when they'll go and not feel good about something, they might throw a little hissy fit. Something doesn't go their way. Mom will swoop in. Mama bear comes in, protects the children. I'm not saying that these women don't deserve love. They don't deserve a relationship. I'm just telling guys that are following my content, that are out there putting a dent in the universe, doing something, chasing excellence. It's far better for them to entertain women without children than it is to entertain women with children. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't that be exactly the opposite way though, too?
No.
Why?
Because I didn't push a football through my body. I'm loaded. I'm in great shape. Men's value goes up typically as they get older.
But regardless of that,
if you take away your success, you're still a single father.
Whether that's a factor, of course. However, you're still talking about a baby mama that I'm signing up to deal with for the rest of my life. I'm going to have to, my life is going to have to revolve around that in some capacity. And I don't have kids.
Got it. So, Jordan, the custody arrangement you have with the kids, how does that work out? Do you have them every other week? Is it?
Yep, every other week. Yep.
Okay. So and it's the same with both fathers?
Yep.
So you've got a week on with both the kids and then a week off with both the kids. And then they go to the respective fathers and they come back to you.
Yep. Sorry.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. So that's not normal, right? Like women get about 80% of the custody orders, which means that they're with the kids most of the time. Like the average deal that guys get in most scenarios is they'll see their kids every other weekend and like a Wednesday night for dinner. And then the moms have the kids most of the time. So in Jordan's case, she's got them 50-50, right? Which is a little bit different. So in most guys' scenarios, like as soon as they're dealing with a single mom, the vast majority of the time, they've got the kids most of the time. Now, if I'm a father and I've got kids, chances are on a balance of probabilities that I'm going to spend more time raising your kids than I am going to be around my kids. So that's another detriment as well, too. That's a benefit that women experience when they're with fathers that have children. I'm not saying that you have to choose a father with children. You can also make a decision not to deal with a guy that's got kids. That's entirely plausible, right?
I think what doesn't make sense to me is you're not understanding that it's a big thing for either a man or a woman to take that on.
No,
I don't understand
it's different
why,
because women don't take responsibility of a man's kids, right?
How?
They just don't.
How can you say that?
Well, we can use, Nursery Rhymes would be a great example. There's stories like Cinderella, for example, where there's always the evil stepmom. There's no nursery rhyme. There's no story. There's no elementary story in Disney where there's the evil stepfather. It's always the evil stepmom because it's based on reality. Women don't typically have much interest in a man's child. They just don't. Whereas men are more than willing to swoop in and raise another man's child.
I'm just saying, I know about Cinderella. I know about a lot of fairy tales.
Is there one fairy tale, one Disney story where there's the evil stepfather?
It's not a fairy tale, it's real life.
I'm talking about reality of 2023.
I know, but these are all based on real life.
That's why they tell these stories. What I'm talking about is real life too. And so, like, for example, I have this like longtime childhood friend, and I actually have had multiple friends in this position where they actually have very successful careers. They're doing really well. They're single. They start dating a guy with 3 kids. Mm-hmm. They move in with these guys. They take on the responsibility of basically being a stepmom. They're taking these kids to practices. They're going to conferences. I mean, they're doing all of the things. And from what I can see, I mean, in a lot of these cases, and I do fault the women too, because I feel like they're not holding these guys to the right standards. However, like they don't have a ring on their finger. No.
Okay.
No. So I feel like
they have a choice not to deal with a guy with kids, though. Why are they choosing to deal with a guy with kids?
Yeah, and men have the choice to deal with a single mom or not. But what you're saying is it's different for men to take that on than it is for women. And what I'm saying is, I mean, it might be different, but it's still drama it's still drama on either side.
Okay, so let's use my story versus Jordan's story. She's got 2 kids from 2 different fathers. I have 1 kid from 1. I was married to her. That's it. And there's no drama. She's potentially going to invite more drama into a man's life by getting involved with her because she's got a couple of kids from a couple of different guys. She's also got 2 kids instead of 1 kid. You see what I'm saying here?
I feel like we're comparing finances and like having to support these children and whatever. But the thing is, it's the same perspective from a women's perspective. When women
don't usually support the children.
It's when a woman comes into a man's life with children, she assumes the mother's role. She moves into the house. She's cooking the dinner. She's doing the groceries. She's taking the days off when the kids are off sick from school. She's doing the back to school shopping. She's dealing with the agendas. She's making the lunches. She's doing the laundry. She's also working and contributing 50% to the bills. So it does work both ways in the perspective of, if you want to say avoid single moms, it is a completely valid the same way to say avoid single dads, because you're going to come in and not only are you mothering a child that's not yours, you also have to mother a father.
1,000%.
Okay, look.
It works both ways, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, like you can use the angle that it works both ways, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But there's a number of significant differences, and I don't expect the gals to see it from the men's perspective, because you're never going to see it from the man's perspective, because women's solipsistic nature, you just don't see it. The fact that you have to
just
push
like how you didn't see it from my perspective.
No, I completely see it from your perspective. But listen to this: a woman pushes a football out of her body. That changes her body. A man does not do that. That is one significant difference between men and women. You do it with two kids, 3 kids, 4 kids. No one's arguing that there's not a difference
between men and women.
No, but you're saying that if you're advising men to stay away from single moms, you should basically be saying the same thing for fathers, because it applies the other way. It's different. And that's just one area out of many that I've just explained to you. I mean, you see the difference, right?
No, I see that there's a difference between men and women. I agree that when a woman gives birth,
did your body change when you had children?
No, I think I look great. I mean, I'm
not asking if you look great. Myself. I'm asking you, did your body change
temporarily?
Yeah.
Temporarily.
Yeah. Do you look as good now as you did when you were 23?
I think I look better, to be honest with you.
Okay. How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10?
Like my physical appearance?
Overall.
Or I don't know, I've never done that.
Rate your physical appearance, because you've thought about that.
I've not thought about that or rated myself on a scale, so I'm gonna pass on that one. But I will say, no, I've never.
I mean, if you guys are in a chat group where you're roasting dudes back and forth, and you're roasting them because you think that they're lower value than you, so you must have some idea of what your value is.
We're roasting them based on their behavior and the things that they say, and the ways that they act.
Yeah. Okay, so
it's not about their appearance.
Let's put a quick pause real quick.
Okay, so let's go
a quick pause. Let's get to Jessica.
Go ahead,
Jessica, to go ahead and pipe up, because you came off mute. I think you had something.
First time I was coming off mute was I also have a kid as well. Granted, I still look very similar to when I had my kid. I still feel the changes. I remember the changes that came with mine. And then I do see differences between men and women, mostly just because it comes out of the mother in all custody cases. That's kind of what happened. And a lot of that, how those fall, since the majority is that the mom ends up taking the kid most of the time than anything else, that's also creating the very lopsided of, the time with the dads, and then flip-flopping kind of how much responsibility goes one way or the other.
We lost you for a second or two there when you were
real
kind
quick,
of going
Jessica.
on
What I'll
that.
say is I would turn your camera off. I think that'll help you speed your connection up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a connection issue.
Yeah, it's just an internet speed thing.
So
bandwidth.
So for the other ladies, and thanks for chiming in, Jessica. So you think that men and women, when it comes to being a parent, should be treated identically?
No one said that.
I think it's worth a conversation, of course, but just to have this like blanketed advice of like stay away from singles mom because it introduces drama. I think that can happen on both sides. I mean,
Would you agree
I don't
that
feel
a
like
woman without kids doesn't bring the same level of drama to a man's life?
And so does a man without kids, is what we're saying.
Let's look at this though. I mean, the majority of single parents out there, the majority of single parents are mothers, right? So you have probably double, if not more, single mothers out there than you have single fathers. And so women are ultimately the sexual selectors. The pool that most men have to choose from as far as women goes, what they're seeing right now is a lot of single mothers in the dating pool. Just because when you look at the way the court system rules in child custody's favor, and Jordan, yours is a little bit different than most, it's very rare to get 50-50 joint custody of children in any state. There are some states that are
80% of the time, I think it's 83% of the time, women are the primary custodial caregivers to the children. So that means that you've got the kids more than I've got the kids, which means that men are putting themselves in a position where they could potentially spend more time raising another man's children versus his own.
So even looking at that, the time that men generally spend raising kids, even if they are a single father, on a long enough timeline and the balance of probabilities, he's still going to have more free time and more time for relationships and dating than your general run-of-the-mill single mother will, just purely based on statistics.
I mean, there's anomalies to that. There always will be.
Of course.
So I just don't agree with like the blanketed advice there. I mean, I know my situation is not conventional.
Like, if something is right 80% of the time, is that a pretty good barometer on how you should act? Like if I was gonna hand you a parachute that only opened 2 out of 10 times, are you still gonna jump out of the plane with it on?
Well, no, but I don't think that you can apply that logic
why is
to
it,
every situation.
Why not? Why are some situations okay to live by the anomaly, and other situations we should live by the majority?
I'm not saying live by it. I'm saying I don't think that you should make that like blanketed advice, or just say like, write off all single moms because it's going to introduce X, Y, and Z to your life, when it's certainly not the case every single time.
But there's nothing in this life that's the case every single time. That's the point. You treat every gun like it's loaded. So why have such a firm stance on something?
If you have options, Jordan, then you don't select a single mom. Even single fathers don't select single moms if they have options.
I didn't hear the first part of what you said. Sorry.
If you have options, you don't typically select a single mom. If you're a guy that's got his head squared away, you're going to find a woman that doesn't have children.
So, Rich, if I'm someone who is self-reliant, successful, 35, I don't have kids, would you give me the same advice and say that I should probably avoid single fathers?
I would. Well, let me hit it from this angle. If I'm talking to you as my daughter, I would tell you the same thing. Stay away from a guy that's got children in tow from a prior relationship.
Why is that?
Form your own family.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
But the reasons, though, are different, is what we're trying to get at.
And that's
I'm mostly talking to guys when they're reading my book, when they're watching my podcast and stuff like that. And it's to their advantage to find a woman that doesn't have another man's seed in their house.
And it's to my advantage to get with a man I'm my own family with, who doesn't have that baggage as well.
If you can get it, but I suspect that your option for getting that is much lower than the available inventory of successful older guys out there with children.
So you don't think I can get a guy that doesn't have kids?
You probably could. But all I'm saying is a guy like me that has their shit together has options. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.